Who is going to win the national championship game? That is what we are here to discuss. I am going to give you my pick for every single one of these games as of 2 hours after we found out what the bracket is. Now, my pick in 2 weeks when these games are happening could be different, but my bracket prediction officially right now, version 1, is right here, right now. If you are new here, go ahead and subscribe down below and then follow at Ian Fritts Show on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram as well. Without further ado, we are going to jump in. Alabama is going on the road to Norman, Oklahoma. They get to avenge one of their 3 losses, the only 3-loss team in the college football playoff. Okay, and there's a lot of discussion. Hey, should Alabama even be in the playoffs? Some people were saying, should Oklahoma even be in the playoffs? Crazy, but they were saying it. That's not what I'm here to discuss. I'm here to give you my bracket prediction. You can go check out the other video on this channel on my thoughts on what the committee did, who's in, who's out, all of that. But I talk about the games to be played here right now. Norman, Oklahoma, Friday night, December 19th, I believe, 7 p.m. Woo, baby. It's a rematch. It's a rematch of just over a month ago, where Oklahoma went into Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and took down, at the time, the number 4 team in the country in the Crimson Tide, handing them their first loss since Florida State in week 1. Rematch. A lot of people were saying, hey, that was a fluky win, Oklahoma. Oklahoma got outgained by over 200 yards against Alabama. They didn't deserve to win that football game. It was a fluky win. Hey, you're not as good as Alabama, Oklahoma. You didn't deserve to win that football game. Nothing you did, stat-wise, statistic-wise, metric-wise, during the game said you were going to win that football game, except for turnovers. And what do you know? Oklahoma won the football game, and here we are. Here we are. Oklahoma and Brent Venables and all those guys there in Norman, Oklahoma can say, hey, remember what you said about us a month ago? Hey, we're actually going to beat that same team again on our own field. We did it there. We did it at their place. We'll do it at our place. Can they do it? Can they get it done? Alabama, you're thinking, hey, we lost to this team already. This is a team that kept us from hosting a playoff game, that kept us from being a top 6, 7 seed, that kept us from playing a James Madison or a Tulane. This is that team right here. This is that Oklahoma team that kept us from being a top 6 seed in the playoffs. We want to go into their building. They beat us twice, 2 years in a row. They beat us. We want to go into their building and take it to them, so we can play the number 1 team in the country in the Indiana Hoosiers. So, who is going to win the football game? What is my prediction for this 2 weeks from this game even happening? Look, Norman, Oklahoma, home game. That crowd is going to be going nuts. And if I recall, I believe I've just seen a weather report that says next weekend, which is when this game will happen, could possibly be the coldest weekend of the year for that region. Norman, Oklahoma, could be the coldest weekend of the year. And Alabama's going to go play them in their building with that crowd going crazy. Maybe the biggest game in Norman, Oklahoma ever. It's not crazy to say that. Not crazy to say that at all. The winner goes to the Rose Bowl to play the number 1 team in the country, the Indiana Hoosiers. Give me the Oklahoma Sooners to beat the Crimson Tide for the 2nd time this year, for the 3rd time in the last 2 years. Give me the Sooners, who I predicted to go 10-2 in the regular season when nobody else did. When everybody else doubted this Oklahoma Sooner football team, I didn't. I said, hey, they're getting to the playoffs as a 10-2 team. And what do we know? They don't just get there. They win a playoff game and go play the Hoosiers in the Rose Bowl, where the last time OU had a real chance to win a national championship, their heart was ripped out of their chest in the 2018 Rose Bowl double overtime loss to the Georgia Bulldogs. But give me Oklahoma to beat Alabama as of today. That leads us to Texas A&M at home against the Notre Dame. Notre Dame's at home crying about it. The Miami Hurricanes. Okay, Miami goes to Kyle Field to face the 12th man, as well as the 11 players on the field in Aggie land. What a game this is going to be, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of time, past few weeks, we were anticipating maybe a Texas A&M Notre Dame matchup. Hey, we're going to get a rematch of maybe the best game of the entire season, and now we get a game that we haven't seen. a game that we don't really know how it's going to go. Teams that, a couple times this year have shown some limps. A&M, it really only ended up one loss. Miami, they gave them two of them. Okay, Texas A&M had the South Carolina fiasco in the first half, but then you come back and win that football game just over a month ago. Miami, obviously the losses to SMU and Louisville. But how does this game match up? Who am I going to pick to win this football game? Am I going to take the home team to win all these first round playoff games? I might. In fact, Texas A&M, they were a top 3 team in the country for quite some time. Miami, hey, at one point they were a top 3 team in the country. I had them at one point in my lifetime here this year. Okay, I'm not the only one who did that, by the way. But how does this game play out? I think you're going to need a big-time game from Carson Beck. I think you're going to need Miami's best game of the season to beat the Texas A&M Aggies on the road. But I see it happening. Give me the Miami Hurricanes, the U, to beat the Aggies on the road to set up a showdown in the second round in the Cotton Bowl with the Ohio State Buckeyes. Come on, look at those 2 second-round matchups I've just given you. Oklahoma, Indiana, Miami, Ohio State. Yes, sir, sign me up. And then Ole Miss, Tulane. It's Ole Miss. Don't really need to discuss that very much. And then Oregon, James Madison. It's Oregon. Thanks for sticking around for those 2 games. Don't really need to discuss those. Ole Miss and Oregon will win those football games. That leads us to a second round quarterfinal matchups. Oklahoma, Indiana in the Rose Bowl. Miami, Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. Georgia and Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl. Somehow, someway, Georgia seems to always play in the Sugar Bowl. And then Texas Tech and Oregon going to the Orange Bowl. Without further ado, we will talk about these games, but I do need to take a sip from this mug. If you wouldn't mind, go ahead and subscribe down below. Indiana, Oklahoma. This game features maybe the 2 best defensive lines in the country. Some could say that. I think I kind of lean that way based on what I've seen from Indiana yesterday against Ohio State, and then Oklahoma all year long have been unbelievable on the defensive line. Look, ladies and gentlemen, it's hard to pick against Curt Cignetti. It is hard to pick against Curt Cignetti. I think he maybe just cemented himself as one of the greatest coaches of all time in just sports with what he has done at Indiana in the past 2 years. Historically, the worst program in college football in the FBS. Historically. And they just beat historically the best team in the history of college football, win percentage-wise, in the Ohio State Buckeyes. And now they face another blue blood in the Oklahoma Sooners. Can Curt Cignetti take down another blue blood? No, he cannot. Give me the Oklahoma Sooners to upset the number 1 team in the country, the Indiana Hoosiers. Miami, Ohio State, next game up. Miami. Look, I just honestly don't see a way that Miami can win that football game. So give me Ohio State to move on to the Final Four, and they will play the winner of Georgia and Ole Miss, a rematch from earlier in the season where Georgia beat the Ole Miss Rebels after trailing for virtually 99% of that football game. Came back, stormed back, and beat the Rebels. In a game like this, that game is where I see the head coach, or lack thereof, for Ole Miss to hurt them. So give me the Georgia Bulldogs to beat the Ole Miss Rebels. That leads us to Texas Tech and Oregon. This game, I would say if there is a most likely matchup in the second round, it is Oregon and Texas Tech. I think we can probably just go ahead and simulate to that game. No disrespect, James Madison. No disrespect, except honestly, disrespect straight to you. It's not happening. Not happening. So Texas Tech, Oregon is a fascinating matchup. Look, Texas Tech, the defense has been unbelievable all year long. They force turnovers better than anyone in the entire country. Seemingly, they just get one like every other possession is what it feels like. Oregon, on the other hand, struggle a little bit here and there throughout the season, but then, hey, you only have the one loss, and who's it to? The number 1 team in the country, at home by 10 points. But now they face a Texas Tech team who could possibly have the best defense they've played since that Indiana Hoosier defense. So how do they respond? How does Oregon respond? Now, Texas Tech, you're going up against by far the best defense you have faced to that point in the season. Oregon's defense is just light years better than any defense you have faced in the Big 12. No shots at the Big 12 except for direct shots that I'm aiming right at the Big 12 with those defenses over there. Texas Tech aside, How does Oregon's defensive line match up against Texas Tech? I think it dominates. So give me the Ducks to beat the Texas Tech Red Raiders. And that sets us up for the Oklahoma Sooners to face the Oregon Ducks in a college football playoff semifinal on the opposite side of the bracket of the Ohio State Buckeyes. Who will win the game between Oklahoma and Oregon? Ladies and gentlemen, this would be an epic football game. If you remember a few years ago, Oregon hired Dan Lanning. Brent Venables was hired at Oklahoma. They were in the same head coaching carousel cycle, and then 4 years later, boom, they lead both of their teams to a college football playoff semifinal. Look, if this were to happen, Oklahoma beats Alabama, Oklahoma beats Indiana, Oregon beats James Madison, Oregon beats Texas Tech. I have to lean that Oklahoma has showed that they are a better football team to this point than the Oregon Ducks. So I'm going to take Oklahoma to make it to the national championship game. And I know everybody hates me for it. I did predict this early on in the season. Before the season started, I said Oklahoma's going 10-2. Check. And Oklahoma's making the national championship game. I am not coming off of that pick until it is impossible. And right now, it is possible. Ohio State, Georgia. A few weeks ago, I had Ohio State beating the Georgia Bulldogs. Excuse me, I had Georgia beating the Ohio State Buckeyes. And again, I will take that. It's going to be a Georgia-Oklahoma national championship in the college football playoffs. Now, this is the rematch of the 2018 Rose Bowl. I alluded to it earlier where Oklahoma got their heart ripped out in that double overtime loss. That was with Lincoln Riley, so maybe Brent Venables has made some adjustments. Just maybe. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, Georgia rips out the heart of the Oklahoma Sooners and wins the national championship again and beats the Sooners. Give me Georgia to win the national championship. Confetti, ladies and gentlemen. Congrats to Georgia. Thank you so much for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe down below. Even if you didn't enjoy this video, subscribe down below. Leave a comment. I will respond to you. I love you guys. Bye.
Michigan State's Jalen Watts Jackson, and he scores on the last play of the game. 45, 40, 45, 50, 45. There